Greetings. My name is George Young. I'm the state senator of Senate District 48. And I'm very excited about this moment to be able to talk about just taxation, which is a very serious and important matter to all people, but particularly those, and I will say in particular those in my district, in Senate District 48, which encompasses Northeast Oklahoma City and parts of Northwest Oklahoma City. History has created some problems as far as taxation is concerned. Those who make the tax laws have created some problems for those of us who have been impacted by history. And so it is important for all of us to pay close attention to the process that goes into creating tax laws and the present tax laws. And there are several, I want to talk about a couple in particular that I want to highlight today. But it's very important to all of us because those of us who are in the working classes, who go out every day, those who are hourly workers, those who are working and trying their best to make a living, we want people to be able to work because a broader tax base gives us more income into the state coffers to be able to do the services that the state is responsible for doing. The state is responsible for caring for those who cannot care for themselves. The state is responsible for law enforcement. The state is responsible for emergency services. And so it is important that we have a broad tax base. We want everybody contributing to that tax base. But sometimes the tax laws impact us in such a way that it takes away from that group. It takes away from that broad base. And just a couple of things. I guess a lot of the people are talking about now is the earned income tax credit. Now you got to remember, and there will be others I know who will talk about this, but they're talking about two different things, the federal earned income tax credit and the state earned income tax credit. The interesting thing is that earned income tax credit came into existence under President Reagan and in Oklahoma under Governor Keating, both Republican governors who saw, and if you go back and research it, President Reagan said that he did it because he knew there was a need to help people who were struggling, just trying to make it. And so for people who had a certain income, who had children, he placed into tax law this ability for folk to be helped. And if you really want to look at it from a social standpoint, Dr. Martin Luther King in his last book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos to Community, placed as one of the things he wanted to see was a check sent out to, now we're getting with the COVID checks, but we were talking about every month that a check be sent out to people who were struggling, who were unable to make it on their own, not because they didn't have the ability to, not that they did not access the opportunities, but because of the history of this nation, because of the way things of how they have been prevented from fully vesting into this American dream, as people like to say. And so earned income tax credit really comes out of a legitimate point of view that's very helpful to all people, to all of those who are economically challenged. I will say this, 4 or 5 years ago, when the Senate, when the Oklahoma House of Representatives, and I was a state representative then, and voted against it, decided to take away the earned income tax credit from those who lived in the state of Oklahoma on the state level. They did it because we were facing $1 billion budget. What good did that do? It was only about $60–70 million that they got from this, but they hurt the most vulnerable in our community. And it was hurtful to me because I was the state representative for House District 99. And that district was the district that was most severely impacted. $500,000 was sucked out of House District 99 by the signing of that bill, which did nothing to offset that $1 billion deficit that we were facing. And so historically, there have been some things that have impacted us. It is important that we pay attention to the tax laws. It is important that we look at these things that impact us every day, particularly, again, for those who are out there working every day, trying to make it. Why do we put additional burdens upon them? Why do we put additional taxation upon them? When you look at our tax structure, and there's got to be a lot of work that needs to be done. The higher you go up and the more money you make, it seems as if the less percentage-wise taxes you pay, and that is true. Now, the dollar amount is obviously larger, but when you look at the basis, we still try to form and to support our government, all of our services that governments give out on the backs of those who are least able to do it. And so I'm glad to be able to say for a moment, I'm glad that this is an issue. I hope we will talk about it more and more. I think it's ultimately important that we start talking about how taxation affects each and every one of us, and just not talk about how bad the IRS is and OTC, the Oklahoma Tax Commission, but start looking at the laws and paying attention to it and take advantage take advantage of those things, such as the earned income tax credit on your federal tax return, and to speak up about the earned income tax credit being taken away from those who live in the state of Oklahoma on the state level. I've had a bill for the last 4 years, ever since they rescinded it. I've had a bill before in the House, and now I've had one the last 2 years in the Senate, last 3 years in the Senate, and they have not heard those bills. And again, it would not impact our overall budget to the extent that it would cause any problems at all. But it is important and significant for those who are trying to make it, particularly in line of COVID and what COVID has done for us and done to us as a state. And so it would be very important, be very beneficial. I go the earned income tax credit plus minimum wage bill that I've run for the 4 or 5 years. They go hand in hand because they look at the taxations that falls upon us, that causes us problems, that causes the state problem. Because when we can broaden that tax base, I want to end where I started. When we can broaden that tax base, we can get more folk in the working population, we get more folk who are paying taxes fairly and justly, and people who see the results of their taxes being paid. That's when we'll get to the point where we'll have a state that is hitting, as we like to say, on all cylinders. Thank you so much. Continue this struggle, continue this conversation. I think it's ultimately important to each and every one of us. Thank you, and God bless you.